I'm semi-retired, just so everybody knows, semi-retired. I still teach in the master's program, and this is my 40th year at Florida State University. I started there when I was 5. They had to change the rules to let somebody like that come to FSU. So I'm really delighted to be here. I was involved in setting up the initial FAB OBM conferences, and we always had in Florida, and I'm so glad that we've been able to continue the tradition and see so many wonderful people here. Can I see how many people are here from Florida? How many? Whoa, huge, huge. And how many of you are doing CEUs? Huge, great, great. We appreciate your support on that. Now, as a semi-retired person, I now have time to read the paper, which I didn't much before. And it's through reading the paper that I have come to realize something about the bigger world. When you're like David, full professor at a major university, you work 60 hours a week, and you know what you do every day with your students, and it's really hard to keep in touch. But I've been trying to stay in touch with what's going on out there, and I'm no longer teaching OBM courses. We had a PM track we taught at FSU for 25 years or so, and Aubrey Daniels came down every year and taught in that class, and it was really wonderful. I see a lot of my grads here, successful students. And I've been following the field, even though I'm not teaching in that. I've been following the field and trying to figure out sort of the bigger picture of where we stand with regard to the larger field of business. So we would like to be a big part of business. We'd like the business people to come to us when they have problems. So when I read the paper and I see headlines like this, I think, incentivize your way to good health in 2011. I expect this to be an article about the ADI company has taken on a big contract to improve health in major corporations and so on, and I'm always disappointed when that's not the case. There's a nice little logo for all of this stuff. This is from an article in the New York Times. That's a good place for me to read because the Tallahassee paper has nothing, so and it just kind of gives me the bigger issue. So this article, it caught my attention, and it caught it because of the word incentivize, which is an odd word to me. And it's not one of our words. So you know right away this wasn't us. Two things have happened recently will probably bring more incentives to more people. Now I would say we would read that and we'd go, hey, that's a good idea. Good idea to have more incentives to more people, as long as they're contingent and relevant and all that kind of stuff. Are they? I don't know. I don't know if you know this, but the Obama and al. Healthcare law actually includes incentives in the bill. 30 to 50% of the total cost of health insurance as an incentive can go back to those people that are participating. Those winnings often in the form of lower premiums, go to the people who join wellness programs and hit certain health goals. Now that's an improvement, because it used to be if you just signed up, you got the incentive. Now you have to sign up and you got to hit a health goal. So I'm beginning to think somebody's catching on here. And maybe somebody in this room has been involved in doing this consulting. I don't know. If so, identify yourself shortly here. They have levels. There's a platinum level. Somebody who works hard at taking advantage can extract more than $5,000 annual value out of this. Now that's a healthy incentive to be healthy. It sure sounds like it'd be something that we'd be interested in, and I would hope that we could probably even make a system like that better. But it's built into this, so those of you that are interested in working and improving health and healthcare and so on, this is something you might be interested in. You need to know first, now this is all the language coming out of this article in the New York Times. You have to know what behavior it is you want to incentivize. So at least I got the behavior part, and we just have to figure out what this incentivized business is. For example, United Health suggests rewarding people. And if you heard somebody say rewarding people, you'd go, cut. We don't reward people, we reward behavior. Well, we're going to let these people go. We're going to let them have that. We're going to let them reward people, because then they go on to say, for having a variety of vital signs tested, that's good, and more points for hitting goals for things like blood pressure, body mass index, cholesterol. So we're going to reinforce them for participating and for hitting certain goals, and you can earn up to $5,000, and hey, this sounds like a good deal. Here's a company mentioned in the same article, Pitney Bowes, major company. They're going to give $350 to employees and covered spouses and so on who hit all their marks. So all their marks is a key term here. But here's the hitch, and this is where you can tell, see, there wasn't a behavior analyst involved with this. They're going to give them the money as a lump sum at the end of the year. See, we know better than that. We wouldn't do that. We would know how to make it more contingent, more timely, and so on. There's a consulting firm called the Vitality Group that I had never heard of before, and they are specifically committed to one thing, and that is learning how to use incentives to motivate people. So they even use our terminology. They call it scientifically based, which I think it's a different science than ours, but it's scientifically based, so that's a good start. They're looking for enhancement solutions, and they're trying to improve health through the use of incentives. So that's good. So they're not preaching at people anymore, or just sending out messages about how bad it is to have high cholesterol or whatever. They're trying to actually reinforce this. And they refer to this rich body of clinical, behavioral, and actuarial science, which I don't know, most of us don't know anything about that, but it sounds like we ought to, maybe. A little bit more on the Vitality Group. The thing about Vitality Group is that you can earn various levels of status depending upon how often you go to the gym and so on, so that's good. You're going to give bigger reinforcers to people who are more active in this whole thing. And they're saying that this is very similar to frequent flyer programs. Now, if you remember when frequent flyer programs started, which was about 20 years ago, I'm thinking, a lot of us said, where'd they come up with that anyway? Which one of us told them to do that? It wasn't us. It wasn't behavior analysis told the airlines to do this. They figured this out on their own. They never really quite got it right. There's too many restrictions and so on. But they are trying to reinforce a behavior that's at least meaningful to them. If you type incentivize into Google News, you can find out who's doing this. Or if you just type it into Google Web, you can find out who out there is involved in incentivizing people and what they're doing, because they're telling everything again. This is so much better than the old days. We had to go to the library and look this stuff up. I mean, it's amazing. There's a downside, but the net result is you can kind of peek in on what people are doing. It's like being a voyeur, sort of. So here's this group that is referring to this, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in a second, but I'm going to tell you the end first, and we're going to kind of come back to this. These are people, it's called Express Scripts. These are people that want to sell you your medications through the mail, and you can do this more cheaply than through your pharmacy. Now, there's some allegations about some stuff about that, like, are they real? You know, are they placebo? There's so much research now that shows that placebos work. That you could sort of make a placebo pill, sell it for the full cost or slightly less, make a whole lot of money, and people still feel good about it. I don't know if you know about it. You see the research on placebo? Even if you tell people, this is a placebo pill. It has no active ingredients. If you take this, it'll help you with your arthritis. And people take it, and a few days later, they go, hey, it's gone. And you know that that was a placebo, right? Uh-huh. And you feel better. Uh-huh. Wow, it's amazing. I don't know what's going on there. But, so, the people in the drug industry are very hot on this, and they have put people into categories. These are people who don't take all their meds, which is not a good idea if you're an older person or whatever and you need to be taking your meds. They have active decliners, people who don't want to take the meds, they don't like the side effects or something. People who just kind of put it off and forget about it, and the sporadic forgetters. So anyway, that's the categories that they're doing. Research has shown that non-adherence, that is not taking your pills and not refilling is the main thing, I think, for them, can have a profound effect not only on the individual's health, but the health system as a whole, costing up to $100 billion. This is a big market. So if you could figure out how to motivate people to quit being an active decliner, a refill procrastinator, or a sporadic forgetter, you could save somebody a whole lot of money, plus probably help the health of the country. 33 to 69% of all medications are due to poor medication adherence. And I didn't know that. That's a kind of a statistic that maybe we ought to attend to. This results in a $1.5 billion lost earnings and $50 billion in lost productivity in the country. Now, where this is going is, and I've only picked one sector, the health sector, because of this original article. This is a huge industry that's interested in behavior, and they're interested in using incentives. I think this is a market for us. We just have to figure out how to get there. Now, this is where it goes a little wonky, because they say adherence is a matter of habit. Now, I don't think they understand what that means. I don't know that they understand what a habit is. I sincerely doubt that they know what that is, as opposed to discipline or self-control. Their main form, this is Express Scripts again, their main form of changing behavior is through the letters that they write people. So they've actually done research. They write different kinds of letters and see whether people are more likely to respond or not. So they're manipulating on the antecedent end. We estimate, and this is an interesting comparison, we estimate to achieve this improvement through the use of financial incentives, co-payments would have to be reduced by $10 to $12 per prescription. So the other way to change people's behavior would be to lower the cost. They don't want to do that. They'd rather write fancy letters and convince people that they ought to do that. So that gives you some sense of what they're doing. And I suspect that if they hired you into the company, you could figure out a way to do this far more effectively than these letters that they're dealing with. I just put this up there because, and this is all quotes from this article that caught my attention, because they're referring now to medication-taking behaviors. So there was a long time that we've been through that we could never get people to use the word behavior. They didn't want to talk about behavior. It was a no-no. They loved attitude. We want to change people's attitudes towards medication taking. And we kept saying, no, it's not your attitude, it's your behavior. We even have a logo t-shirt that says, behavior counts. And when I'm dealing with people in Tallahassee and I have my shirt on and they go, oh, what's that mean? And I say, it's not your attitude and it's not your intention, it's your behavior. And sometimes people say, I could use a shirt like that for my kid. Sometimes they'll say, I could use a shirt like that for my employees. And I go, well, we sell them. And if I have any FABA business cards on them, I hand them out that. We'll sell a few t-shirts here. But it was a long time coming that we could get people off that attitude business and onto the actual behavior. Now, the second paragraph here, or the second sentence of this, is a little bit scary. Exciting new technologies that allow for the measurement of fine structure of these behaviors in ways that are not obtrusive to the patient hold out the possibility of gaining this understanding in the very near future. Now, I don't know what that's going to be. One of those pills that you take is going to have a little indicator in there, and you're going to swallow it, and they're going to be able to tell, and it's going to transmit information, and somebody's going to come knocking on the door and say, Mrs. Jones, your prescription's almost up. Could happen. I mean, the miniaturization of tracking material is amazing now. So I don't know where they're going with this. It's a little bit scary. All right. Here's another article that relates to this kind of bigger picture of the people in the culture, business people in the culture, thinking about human behavior, and us trying to think of where do we fit in on this. So, as you know, University of Chicago is sort of the seat of a field called behavioral economics. And they have something like 20 Nobel Prize winners up there, and they just attract these people that are economists. And it was news to me about 15 years ago that economists were interested in behavior. I thought they were just interested in numbers. But they started calling themselves behavioral economists. And some of us, probably in this room, we had a conversation about who do they think they are? They don't know anything about behavior. They're economists. They're not even well respected in the business world. What are they doing? So this guy, John List, there's an article about him, University of Chicago. He is being touted as the next Nobel Prize winner in economics. Now, I say that on the front end because I'm going to tell you some of the things that he said, and you tell me if this sounds like Nobel Prize winning material. So he has these crazy ideas. One of the crazy ideas he has is that behavioral economists are in fact interested in why people do what they do. The long-standing why question, they're interested in that. And they want to do what they call field experiments, which has really nothing to do with the way we would actually do these studies. List, this professor, wants to use experiments to solve youth violence in school, gender bias in hiring. In each case, he wants to isolate why people behave the way they do, as though nobody knew the answer to that. He's like, I don't know. Why do people do what they do? Dang, you got to have a Nobel Prize in your pocket to answer that question. Well, we're going to come back to that in a second. But that's a key question. And the why question, answering the why question, is something that we've been digging at for years, at least 40 years with Java, and longer for people who preceded that. We've been trying to answer the why question. We never brought it up to the surface exactly, but we were always interested in the why question. Every functional analysis that Brian Iwata taught us to do back in 1982 is formed around the question of the why. Why does this client do what they do? So, this economist, you could say, how does he apply this in his life? I'm going to give you the answer. I don't think anybody knew this before this. He believes so strongly in incentives that he offers his own children lottery tickets to do extra math homework. Anybody else a little uncomfortable with that? Giving your kids lottery tickets? I mean, what if they hit it? I mean, if you just give the kid the ticket, the kid scratches it off, and Daddy, I won $25,000. I mean, that could be the end of the homework, right? The kid's just going to run around and spend the money. Hey, I'm out of here. I don't need the school stuff. But anyway, so I think, there's a little bit of a values question there, plus, anyway. Now, how about toilet training? List promised his daughter a trip to Disney World in exchange for her becoming potty trained. The day he made the offer, she used the toilet and was trained. Ta-da! Now, I don't know how many people in here have read a book called Toilet Training in Less Than a Day. Okay? Now, who wants to write the next book? Toilet Training in Less Than a Minute. And it's a very small book, and you open it up, and it says, offer your kid a trip to Disney World. Now, this is Nobel Prize winning material ideas. Does that sound right? Everybody's good for this? Now, he clearly doesn't understand child development. And he clearly doesn't understand reinforcement. And somehow or another, he's missing the whole point about coincidence. Like, she was already trained. She just wanted anybody to know about it. And there was a rumor in the household about these lottery tickets things. And so she goes, well, I don't want a ticket, Daddy. I'd rather go to Disney. Okay, we'll give you a trip to Disney World. And she was trained. Now, so, but you can see, I think, where I'm trying to go with this is there are people out there, smart people, who are interested in behavior and they're interested in incentives. And that's our market, I think. Incentives are the pillar of economics, represent everything I'm about, says List. If you understand the incentives people are operating under, you have a good first guess about what they're going to do in certain circumstances and how the changes in the environment and or their institutions will influence their behavior. Now, with just a little rewording, that could be in a PM book, especially the part about the environment. Now, we don't like the word incentive because we're not sure, it's a little bit cognitive. It's like you're thinking about what you're going to earn as opposed to a consequence which changes probability. But it's kind of close enough if you think about it. Now, this was another article that kind of made me think, well, wait a minute, people are coming around to our way of thinking. Maybe. But they're still confused, which is the other message. If you got that message, they're coming around but they're confused. You all with me on that? How many people think they're coming around and they're confused? Everybody here with me? A few people? Oh, I need to say it one more time. They're coming around, but they're a little bit confused. There's an education market out there. So, here's another headline. Nursing homes use music to help curb bed sores. Music to curb bed sores. Now, where I am at Florida State, we have a music therapy program, and they've been doing music therapy for years. There's a journal of music therapy, and I read this and I thought, damn, that's a major advance. You set a little radio beside somebody's bed and their bed sores go away. That's incredible. I'm just picturing how did this go. But you know, I am semi-retired and I do have time to read more than the headline, so I did read the rest of the article. Now, every 2 hours, music plays over a loudspeaker, prompting caregivers to stop what they're doing, make sure the residents respond or reposition to keep the bed sores from forming. So it's not the music that treats the bed sores, the music is a stimulus. Now, if you have any stimulus, could be a buzzer, could be any stimulus. They happen to use music. I don't know quite why they came up with that. And embedded in the study is the staff got to pick the music that they would like to have over this. Stop everything, every 2 hours the music plays, turn people. That's the solution. Now, how do they come up with this? So this is researchers from the UC College of Nursing, I guess that's University of California College of Nursing, got a 2-year, $300,000 grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to look at whether a simple audio reminder can prompt a nurse-led team to make sure patients move or get moved. $300,000 to answer the question of whether it can be a prompt. Now, I'm going to say, just to this group, because you're kind of in the know, how many people would tell them the answer for $1? I would. I think that's pretty easy. You could save the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation $299,000 by just doing that. Or if they just read a book. If they just read Aubrey's book, they wouldn't need this. Now, here's the hitch. Here's the hitch. This could go on for a while, but I don't know if you've ever tried to turn an elderly person, but they're often cranky about that. And you go to turn them and you discover there's more problems than just turning. So now you've got a mess on your hands and you have to help with that. Or maybe they start yelling at you or something. There's a response cost to engaging in this particular behavior. So how long do you think this is going to go on? Here comes the music. Oh God, I got to turn Mrs. Jones again. She's going to yell at me. Maybe I'll just pretend I'm busy. I didn't hear the music or something. There's no indication anywhere in this that they understand that it's going to have to be some consequences associated with this. So they're totally ignoring the idea of motivation. Now, I read this article and I'm trying to picture, what if they had a behavior analyst consulting with them and they said, hey, we read this article, we're going to try the music thing, what would you do? My guess you'd say is, well, we're going to start taking some data and at some point we're going to have to figure out some reinforcers, maybe some incentives. People in the nursing home never read the articles about the incentives over there or the tickets. Mrs. Jones, if you'll just get rid of those bed sores, we'll send you to Disney World. Now, I've been concerned about positioning. Did you see the segue there? I've been concerned about positioning OBM, PM, for a very long time. Where does it fit? Like, where does it fit in IO psychology? I got this question a lot back when we were doing the undergraduate thing. People would say, is this part of OBM? I mean, is it part of industrial organizational psychology? And I would say, oh no, it's not. It's better than, much better than IO psychology. And then they would take the course and then they'd become a true believer, and some of those people are in the audience today, and now they're all grown up and they have PhDs and they're doing research and consulting, and so I think I did the right thing. I think it was the right thing to tell them. But the fact is if you try to think about where is OBM positioned in the world of business, this would be a tiny little teeny-weeny gnat on the hind end of a big elephant or something. I mean, we're not there. It's a huge market, and we're not there. We need to figure out how are we going to position ourselves so that business people flock to us. Well, that's sort of what the rest of this is about. And the question is, do we know what our strength is as a field? Have we been able to focus on that? My concern is that people are not able to kind of step back from JOBM, read all the articles, and step back and say, what's this all about? So I'm going to try to convince you, if I can, that this is what it's all about. We do have a strength, that it's unique, it's extremely valuable, but we've got to think about a different way of talking about this to people. We know about something totally unique in the world called contingencies of reinforcement. But if you talk to business people about contingencies, they go, contingencies, what? Just like I got an email from somebody before the conference, and they were talking about Twitter. Anybody here Twittering? As we, God darn you people anyway, you're on top of everything. And so the question was, Dr. Baylor, are you going to be Twittering? And if so, you're going to need the hash mark something. And I'm going, hash mark what? I have no idea. Just like if you tell business people something about contingencies of reinforcement, they go, what? They don't know what that is. We've got to think about how we talk to people about what we do. And the professor List from University of Chicago, who pointed out that you have to know how to design environments, we know how to do that. We know how to design, and I would say, and I don't think it's just bragging, as a field, we know how to design super motivating environments for people. We know how to do that. I don't think there's any question about that. I think we've known that for probably at least 10 years. And every year, all of the researchers, like Dr. Wilder, are contributing to that research. We know more every year. So we know two things. Contingency reinforcement, how to design these uber environments for motivation. So we know about individualized reinforcement, scheduled reinforcement, token economies, effective prompts, monitoring feedback. We know about all of that stuff. And you're going to hear a lot more about that at this wonderful conference today. The question is, knowing all that is one thing, and then communicating what you know in a usable fashion to other people is the next part. Do we know how to talk to our consumers? And the consumers are the CEOs of these major companies that I just mentioned. Do we know how to talk to them about what we do? In clinical behavior analysis, we tell people up front, like all the students coming into my program, they very high percentage want to work with autistic kids and their families and so on. And we say to them, you have to be bilingual. Are you prepared to be bilingual? And they usually give a quizzical look. And I will say, you have to be able to speak behavior analysis to each other, and you have to be able to speak English to everybody else. You have to be able to do not talk terminology to your clients. It doesn't work. Or the teachers, or the parents, or the principals. Don't talk terminology. We do that here, but we don't do it out there. Well, I think we sort of have to adopt the same thing with what we're doing. Now, these are the terms that have shown up, and you'll see that they're the terms that I just clipped these from those paragraphs that I showed you. The business world is using terms like behavior, which is great, incentives, influence, lottery tickets, rewards, incentivize, environment, hitting goals, frequent flyer, habit, rewarding people, in exchange for is a good synonym for contingency. It's great. So you don't tell people, oh, you've got to change the contingencies. You have to say, well, we just have to exchange what they work for. Audio reminders, financial incentives, enhancement solutions. These are their terms. They're not our terms. They don't come out of our literature. But you have to be bilingual, I think, and you have to be prepared to use their terms. So, I think the big question comes down to, how do you motivate people? And the question is, who knows about that? In the world, who knows about how to motivate people? Let's just throw out a couple. Social psychologists. No. Cognitive psychologists. No. Behavioral economists, no. Big no. I think we need to distill everything that we've learned and say, what's it about? And what it all boils down to, I think, is motivation. I think that we should label ourselves, we're the motivation people. We know how to motivate people. What do you want them to do? Call me. I'll show you how to motivate them. But here's what we're up against. I'm getting ready to play this clip. You're good?
I need your help with my employees. They are not working.
Okay, can you give me more details?
Yes, they are lazy.
That is not what I was thinking. What do you want them to do?
I want them to be motivated all day long. Tell me what to do.
It sounds like the work is not reinforcing to them. They would rather do something else than stay on task. Is the job boring?
Of course it is. All work is boring. But they should be motivated anyway.
I can show you how to motivate your employees, but you must be able to give positive feedback. Can you do that?
I don't know what you mean.
If an employee came up with a good idea, what would you say?
I would say it is about time you got creative.
I think I understand why they are not working hard.
What?
If they work hard, you do not reinforce them.
They are grown-ups. Why do they need, what is it, reinforcement?
A reinforcer is like a reward. Just think about rewarding them when they make a contribution.
No, I don't want to do that. I want them to be motivated. It is not my problem. I don't have any problems.
This is going nowhere. I have to go wash out my coffee cup now. Good luck.
That's a little piece of software that you can get on the web. It's free. It's called Extra Normal, and it's really cute. And you can, like if you're doing training and you're trying to illustrate a point, you can kind of break up the monotony by doing little stuff like that. Now, here's another source of information. Again, as a semi-retired person, because remember, I'm still actively involved. I still teach once a week, half-time essentially what it is. But I do have time to find out what's going on. And I recently got this note from Google about Books Ngram Viewer. Anybody heard about this? This is really interesting. There's the website, ngrams.googlelabs.com. They're always coming up with great ideas. You know, Google has scanned almost every book in the world, it seems like. And they were getting ready to sell it, and then the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that, so you've got to figure out something else to do with this stuff. One very cool thing about it is once they scanned it, it was all digitized, and once it's digitized, you can do searches, so you can find out what's going on. In the world of all the books, nearly every book that's ever been published, you can essentially look up things. So you can put phrases into this Ngram viewer, and it'll show you over the years how often that word or phrase has shown up in the literature, basically. So I thought, well, this would be fun. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to put some stuff in there and see what happens. So I just put in some words, and it's shocking. I mean, it's instant what it does. I'm just going to show you screenshots here as opposed to using them on the web. So I typed in two terms, positive reinforcement versus incentive. And I was interested in knowing, so this incentive stuff, how does that stand up against positive reinforcement? There's positive reinforcement, and there's incentive. So you can see, you know, we had a little hit right in the 70s, and then it kind of trailed off. And incentive has been going strong. So look at this, since 1900. And then it went flat. It had another big one in the 40s. And now for some reason it's tailing off a little bit. But if you can see that if you had a choice between using the word incentive versus positive reinforcement, you'd be much better off. More people know about the word incentive than they do positive reinforcement. What about positive reinforcement versus reward? This is interesting. This is the same graph for positive reinforcement, that little bump in the 70s. But look how reward is doing. Reward is catching on. People like the term reward. And as far as we're concerned, and we're talking to the public, not us, why not just use the term reward? Everybody likes it. It's been useful since 1900, going way back, going way back. We didn't get our bump in positive reinforcement until almost 1970. So if you're talking to business people about what you do, so tell me, Miriam, what do you do? So I use rewards to motivate people. Really? How much do you charge per day? I'd like to have some of that knowledge. Would you share it? Oh yeah. It's usually $3,000 a day plus. Plus what? Expenses. I travel first class. So you can check these things out. You can kind of get some sense of where we are. So there was that, and there was that. So, you know, on this one I'd say let's everybody use reward. Now, the question about the term motivation. Let's compare positive reinforcement to motivation. Again, there's positive reinforcement. And look at motivation. Boy, that took off. That really took off. It's kind of plateaued. It's having a little bump or a little dip down. I don't know exactly what that's going to do. But relative to positive reinforcement, it's way up there. So I would say reward and motivation are two terms that are used a lot, and I would say we can benefit from that. We know how to do that. We can speak regular business language for that. How about incentive versus motivation? Well, as you can see, incentive started off, it was used a lot more in the 1900s. I never knew anything about that. It's been kind of plateaued and tapering off a little bit. And look at motivation. Motivation really caught up in the 50s. It's been very stable. It's still a very usable word. Motivation is a good word to use about what you do. Thank you. What about incentivize? This looks like this started, you can sort of track this, is interesting. It started in 1990 and is on its way up, incentivize. If you're in the business world, I'd suggest start practicing pronouncing that word. I know I haven't done too well this morning, but the best I can. Here's incentivize versus reward. Now that's interesting. Although incentivize is on the up tick, relative to reward, it's not on the map yet. So if you want to be hip and cool, say incentivize, you'll be ahead of the curve, or just use reward, or maybe mix them up. Tell people they're the same. They're functionally the same for business purposes. Incentivize versus motivate. Motivate is clearly the winner, and incentivize not yet, but I think it will be. From the way, if you actually type this into Google News, you'll see what's out there. Google Web, you'll find it's out there. So I think our strength is in motivation. That's what we know about. That's what we know how to do. We know how to motivate people. We understand motivation. If we can get comfortable using the term and we can just start telling people, yeah, we understand how to motivate people. Really? I thought that was like an age-old question. Nope, not anymore. That's an answered question. I have the answer. Now you remember what we charge per day? $3,000 a day, plus expenses when I always travel first class. And I can tell you the answer to some of your motivation questions. How do we position ourselves? What do we tell people? I think we tell them this. We're the motivation people. We know how to motivate people. John List, potential Nobel Prize winner in economics, wants us to know why people behave the way they do. John, hey, I saw your article in the paper. We got the answer for you. Got a piece of paper? I'm going to tell you, you can write it up. Let me send you an email? Yeah, I can do that too. Bye. We know the answer. It's shocking to me that they think that it's a big mystery. And that we know. I mean, it's confusing. I guess maybe they don't have time to read the paper or something. I don't know. I would tell people, we can answer the why question. We know how to do that. At an individual level, at a departmental level, at a corporate level, I believe we can answer the why question. We know how to design motivating environments. We know how to motivate individual people. So what do we have to do? I think it's fairly straightforward. We have to become friends with incentivizing. plus reward plus motivation. We just have to get comfortable with that. I can imagine, you know, like a 12-step group. We have a bunch of OBMers sitting around, and we say, you know, so why are you here? Oh, I can't get comfortable with incentivize. Okay, well, we can help you. And the whole group says, yes, we can help you. You know, I used to have that problem too. You know, we can have support groups for the people. Learn how to feel comfortable with this. Here's just a handful of groups that showed up in just this small number of articles that are using this now. I feel certain you can find a whole lot more. Robert Wood Johnson is willing to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars to answer this question. We need to probably get to be friends with them. There's Express Scripts, United Healthcare, Pitney Bowes, Vitality Group. Vitality Group is a big consulting firm, and that's all they do. They consult with companies on how to incentivize their employees to improve their health. Very niche sort of a market. We could do that. I think we could do that. We need some more visibility out there. We need some popular titles that will catch people. So here's one. You've probably seen this, Winning Behavior. I think winning behavior, that ought to be written by somebody in here. Maybe somebody can write the sequel to it. More winning behavior. Grab that before Bacon and Pew do that. What the smartest, most successful companies do differently, if you read the book, what they're doing differently is they're motivating people. That's us. Here's another one, Carrots and Sticks. Oh, why didn't we write that book? You unlock the power of incentives to get things done. Or this one, this is great, the Checklist Manifesto. It's a terrific book. It's about using, I don't want to give away the punchline, checklists. Do we know how to use checklists? Yes. Who invented checklists? We did. Oh, really? When did you invent checklists? 1970? We've been doing checklists since 1970, and we never wrote a book called Checklist Manifesto. It's a great book. It's about how they use checklists in medicine and in flying, in the industry pilots checklists and so on. It's a terrific book. This is the biggest thorn in my side of all, Nudge. Written by behavioral economists, thank you. Written by behavioral economists, and the first about 35 or 40 pages are definitely worth reading. And basically what they talk about there is changing behavior with small changes in the environment. It's terrific. I don't know why we didn't write that book. And look at the logo for this. Is this wonderful or what? Big elephant giving the little one just a little nudge. That's us. Why didn't we come up with that? We should have. Now, if you want to find out more about this, you can use the internet. There's a publication called Fierce Government. I just typed this in, it popped up. They're talking about it. Using incentivize in cybersecurity. So there's another sector out there for people to get into. What else can you do? We need to find online publications that are using it. So here's one, QSR, and if I had more time we'd link to it, but it's qsrmagazine.com. And if you go through here, there's about 8 or 9 articles about all of these industries, businesses in the food industry that are using incentives in various ways. So there's a tremendous market, and you can access this. We want to pitch OBM, if we can get our fingers in these people, and we want to tell them we can design for you motivation systems. We can design motivation systems. I think that's something they would go, really? Oh, we didn't know that. We thought you just had to set up motivational coupons or something. No, got to be a system. We know how to do that. What else can you do? Participate in online forums. There's tons of them out there. Those of you that are involved with that, all you Twitter people are probably doing that even now as I speak. Quit that and pay attention to me. Okay. We need to get comfortable using their terms back to them. Translate them and use them back to them. There's a procedure that's recommended in the business world during interviews, something called mirroring, where you pay close attention to the interviewer and then you mirror some of that. Like if they talk kind of slow, you slow down a little bit. And if they have a southern drawl, You pull out your southern drawl. I'm just messing with you there, sorry about that. But you can do that. We need to be issuing press releases. The hottest thing right now on the internet is blogs where people are putting up once a week or so a new headline, something like this: 10 ways to incentivize your business. I just made that up, but it could be anything. And the next week it's going to be 5 ways to something, and the next week it's going to be 8 ways to something. That's just one way to kind of catch people's attention. Or secrets to motivating people. Don't tell anybody. I'm going to put this on the don't tell anybody. So, secrets to motivation. Everybody wants to read that, and then you tell them what it is. Every article to JOBM should be rewritten for an industry publication. My co-author, Dr. Mary Birch, when I was telling her about this, she said, she talks with industry people all the time. You've got to publish in the magazines the industry leaders are reading. You've got to find out what they're reading. They're not reading, sadly, JOBM or JABA. They have their own magazines, like the QSR Online magazine. You've got to find them, and you've got to publish there. So you've got to use their terminology, and they have some distinctive terminology. They say things like value adds for the product. They talk about developing a creative strategy. This a fairly new one called a core universe. Everybody's up to speed on that? You got your core universe in your pocket? Brand messaging. Flag your customers. Surround the working market with our brands. We need a brand. I think somebody is going to talk about this. I remember who during this conference is going to talk about branding our field. So pay attention to that. We are the motivation people. Our message is we can help you improve your business. Thank you for inviting me to OBM.